idea for the Meet the Speaker series is to get to know you as an individual. Who is behind the academic, who is behind the professional. And so I usually like to start by asking you to introduce yourself. What is your name? What is your job? And what does that entail?
Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm so excited to come to EduFest. It's going to be amazing. I'm Eleanor Drage, and I'm a senior researcher at the University of Cambridge at a research centre called the Centre for the Future of Intelligence, which is a big name. But what we do is we look at the social effects, broadly speaking, of AI, how it impacts us now and in the future. And my background is in feminist and queer studies, and I did my PhD in science fiction written by women writers between 1666 and the present, and how these women writers changed what it meant to be human in science fiction in ways that were really inclusive and brilliant for everyone. So my parents obviously had a brief panic attack while I was doing that PhD, and they really wanted me to be a lawyer, and I bailed on law school actually the day before I was supposed to go. So they've only just forgiven me now that I'm working at Cambridge.
1666 to now is relatively long amount of time for us mere mortals, but not so long in the span of the universe. But you now focus on AI. How do you kind of balance the two? How do you make a link between one and the other? Because presumably a lot of what you did in your PhD still helps you and applies to the work that you do on a day-to-day basis nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. I was really lucky. I had absolutely no career trajectory in mind. It was chaos the whole way through. And I had done at undergraduate level a degree in French and English literature, specializing in books written by European writers and global writers that looked at other ways of doing utopia. So a lot of feminist writers are actually writing in science fiction or speculative fiction genres. Or you get, the mad, brilliant French feminists like Hélène Cixous that write in this sort of figurative language. So there's already a link there between science fiction and fantasy and speculative fiction and people who are interested in justice and are writing to find a space for them to exist in that doesn't they can't find in the present. So that's the link between my undergrad and utopia, or how I justify it to myself anyway. And then I loved my PhD, and I just sent loads of applications for postdocs and was rejected to a ton. And the one that I did get was at Cambridge. They were looking for somebody to interview engineers at a big tech company and ask them what they thought about ethics, where ethics was in their work or why it wasn't a part of it. And from there, I was hired by the Centre for the Future of Intelligence in a different department. And they were looking for people who had a background in science fiction or literature because they look at the way that AI is narrativized, talked about in popular culture, and how what Elon Musk reads affects the way that policy is made and the governance structures that we have today. So literature and narrative are really significant. And although people say, you must become, you have one career you can do when you leave university, it was amazing to see that actually, because technology is social and it's narrative based, it's not just computer science, the way that we understand technology really relies on the humanities.
Is this then going to be the topic of your session at EduFest, or what can EduFest attendees expect to hear and learn about during your session?
I'm going to be talking about how we can get AI right, and I'll be looking at four key elements, I think. Why we need to stop listening to the technocrats, why we should think about power and shifting power rather than bias, how we can create AI infrastructure, so the material components of AI, in ways that are more democratic and socially inclusive. So, what it means to create a good data center, or where the materials that create AI come from, and all this geopolitical drama that we're seeing right now, how that's actually playing out for AI. And the last point is the labor force that's part of AI, why that's really important to look at again. So I'm not a techno optimist, but I want to encourage everybody to take part, whether it's lawyers who are interested in tech law, whether it's teachers and students and parents that can play a big part in saying, that technology looks like snake oil, or yes, this technology corresponds with best practice in education, and just get involved, really be inspired to take part because a lot of the narratives that we're hearing about AI come from computer scientists or entrepreneurs who tell us, you're not good enough, you don't know anything about AI, just leave it to the experts. We'll be creating technologies that might kill us, but we have to develop those because the future of humanity depends on us. If we don't have this world where humans fuse with AI, then we're not progressing as a species. And I just want to contradict that a bit.
That is precisely one of the aims of the festival is to have people that are looking at the same topic, but probably from opposing perspectives, and to have attendees also be part of this discussion. If someone because of the setup of EduFest, we've got speakers speaking at the same time, right, in different venues. So if someone is interested in AI in education specifically, but thinks that your talk maybe is too abstract or philosophical or kind of academic, what would you say to them to get them to come to your talk instead of another one?
Oh gosh, I wouldn't want to take attention from any of your other brilliant talks. I am looking forward to taking questions and interacting with the audience. I may work at Cambridge, but I spend, my partner is not interested in an academic version of what I do. I'm forced to give to make AI ethics as interesting and exciting as possible. I think that everybody needs to know these things and find a way of taking part in the debate. So definitely come along and we can learn some things together. It will be fun and interactive and definitely not too difficult. It doesn't matter what your background is.
What about the Eleanor that is not thinking about AI, or science fiction or literature? When you're not kind of on work mode switched on, what do you like to do to disconnect and recharge? And hobbies maybe that you have, a musical instrument, TV show, movies, music. Tell us a little bit about what you do outside of thinking about all these very important topics related to AI.
Well, I spend a lot of time with my friends and going dancing. That's my favorite thing. And I just came back from a week of ski touring and I've actually broken a rib. So I'm feeling a bit sorry for myself. But I really enjoyed it up until the moment I hit the tree. It was really good fun. So I like what we call in the UK type 2 fun, things that are not fun in the moment, but afterwards you feel like you did a good job.
Once those
Um,
endorphins hit, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I do a lot of sports and I love music. We always have BBC Radio 6 on in the kitchen, which is the cool radio station if you are listening to anything based in the UK. I like everything from jazz to turnstile and rock and, pop. So you'll find me dancing around the kitchen at regular work breaks.
Given that so much of your academic time has been spent looking at books, reading books, thinking about books, writing about books and works of literature, is there a work of literature that you think should be a must read for people?
That's such a great question. Very difficult to pick just one, isn't
Or
it?
two or three?
Two or three, yeah, sure. It's not really well, it's not my what you might expect, but my favorite book is The Master and the Margarita by Bukharov. It's my horrible Russian pronunciation. I'm actually trying to learn Russian, but my 5 minutes of Duolingo every 3 weeks is not doing well. It's a fantastic book. I love the premise that the devil arrives in Moscow with his cat and wreaks havoc. And I think it really captures that Soviet sensibility with the chaos and the kind of bureaucratic nightmare that encroaches into your life and is a bit like the devil at work. I think it's just a really beautifully written book. And then I really love Angela Carter's The Bloody Chamber, which is a feminist rewriting of fairy tales. It's fantastically provocative and feisty and a little violent. And I think it's just a wonderful book.
I just started The Master and Margarita on the plane on the way home
So
because
go,
I
what
had
did you
had
get
it
to read?
on my to read list for years. Some of the classics I never got around to reading, and I thought now's the time. How funny is that?
It's great. Do you find it like
I'm only, I think,
complicated?
in chapter three at the moment, so they're just kind of setting the scene. But I get what you're saying about that kind of sense of intrigue also from the very
Mm,
beginning, because the characters are, or at least in the translation that I'm reading, they are beautifully described and presented to us. So
yeah.
I do feel already hooked, and it's only been two chapters, so
Yeah, I think it's one of the most beautiful depictions of how spooky and warping and distorting politics can be when it goes really wrong.
right,
You know, you don't
yeah.
see that. There's something that we see play out every day on the news, but literature can do it better.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with the attendees at EduFest? Any parting words or a message to leave us thinking about something?
I can't wait to see you all, and I think that, this is an incredibly high impact setting with children that are going to go and become the next leaders and do incredible things, and the parents that and teachers that support them. So please come and say hello, and if we don't get to meet, please reach out on LinkedIn or send me an email. I'd love to chat.
Amazing. Thank you so much.